Good morning. I don't know why I said good morning because this video might not go up in the morning. How is everybody? Welcome back to Future Fiber. This is your host Jenny, and this is a channel where I talk about all the crafty things that I do. It is mostly knitting. Today we're gonna do a knit and chat because I really need to work on this sweater and I need to just force myself to sit in one space. And for today's knit and chat topic, I needed something that I could yap about for, 30 minutes, and I decided that I'll talk about all the yarns that I wanted to try. So I'm shooting with the back camera today, so I am taking a bit of a risk. I usually shoot with the front camera of my phone. Oh, also, if you didn't know that, I shoot with my phone. We're low-tech operations here. But I shoot on an iPhone 15, and then I just usually shoot with the front camera, which is not recommended. Don't do that. I don't love using the back camera because I can't really see what I'm doing, and I make very questionable faces when I'm thinking or doing something. If I'm using the front camera, I'm able to kind of see from the corner of my eye that I'm just zoning out for it. But we're a little low light condition today, so I'm trying to counteract that with the higher quality back camera. So we'll see how this goes. And also, I don't know if you guys would have noticed, but since the last video, I've switched up my video editing process a little bit. This is a side tangent, but I've been using Adobe Premiere for a long time. I say we're a low-tech operations, but when it gets to the software part, it gets a little bit more complicated just because I went to art school. I gotta put the knowledge that I spent dollars on somehow, but Adobe is expensive. So I recently switched over to using a new video editing software, DaVinci Resolve. So I picked it up and I've been struggle busting my way through it, learning it. I'm a big fan of YouTube Academy, as you can see. And also, I am a really huge fan of today's sponsor for helping me learn how to use this new software. And today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creators with thousands of classes, led by industry experts, across film, illustration, design, freelance. So the courses that I've been taking on Skillshare are called DaVinci Resolve, the video editing workflow, and this is a set of classes by Fred Trevino. I decided to take this class because I already have a general understanding in video editing, and I wanted to see how my previous skills translated over into the new software. But if you're somebody who wants to start their own YouTube channel, I know a couple of people have also asked me about starting their own knitting related YouTube channel, then there is a learning path designed by Skillshare called Growing Your First YouTube Channel that you could take as a preliminary before you jump into video production and seeing how you might like the process. And this season, Skillshare has a couple of improvements that they've made to the site overall. The first one is smarter class categories, and now I think this is really helpful for me, is the ability to search for classes by software. So the first 500 of you to use my link in the description box will get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare. I guess we'll get the usuals out of the way, right? We are in Mohair weather, so I'm wearing my Sunday cardigan that I knitted up in Knitpicks Wunderfluff in the colorway Larkspur Heather, and it is held together with Knitting for Olive Mohair in the colorway, it's a purple one. It's in the description box. You know the drill. And what I'll be knitting on today is this. This is a pattern by Andie's Knits, and it's a Henley neck sweater. And the pattern name is the Wānaka Sweater. So I'm just working on the body right now, and I'm I don't know. I think I'm about 2/3 of the way there maybe. So I'm not that far off. All of last year I was in a bit of a yarn ban, and I was more actively keeping up with what was happening in knitting then for some reason. I think it was almost like a reflection of my absence or my abstinence from yarn purchases that made me almost think more critically about what I wanted to see or what I wanted to use once I was free from the yarn ban. But then over time, I made this list and I completely forgot about it, and then I found it in my notes. So I think it's kind of interesting how that worked out. Looks like I also categorized these into different sections. So I guess we'll just go down the list and we'll kind of talk about them. And I also have my notes in front of me, so if I'm staring down, that's what's happening. I'm subscribed to some marketing newsletters, I'm subscribed to the the wool warehouse one particularly, mostly because I am interested in the drop sales and I just wanted to know when those happen so I can stock up on yarn. They've been sending a couple of emails where they talk about West Yorkshire spinners yarns, I guess, and then they have these self-striping ones that are used for socks. And I was just like really interested in trying one of those out because I don't really love doing color work. I don't have a ton of experience doing color work, and the most that I've done, especially on socks, is like stripes maybe. But then I don't love weaving it on all the ends, and I know that, like, you know, with the smaller circumference thing like socks, especially if the beginning of the round, I know you're not supposed to do this, but if the beginning of the round is maybe on the ball of your foot or like in an area that's more sensitive to your feet, like I feel like it could cause blisters depending on what kind of shoes you wear with your socks. So I feel like a self-striping yarn or self-patterning yarn would take care of that, you know what I mean? So that you wouldn't have to worry about it as much. So that's why I wanted to try those. So yeah, I think West Yorkshire Spinners has one, and then, or has a bunch, and then I can't remember if this was a fever dream or if it was something real that somebody had created, but I feel like there was one where they have like fruits on them, you know, like lemons or apples. So I would love to try something like that as well. And I think it was, I want to say Wool and the Gang. It was either Wool and the Gang or We Are Knitters, but I think it was Wool and the Gang. They had a sock yarn kit where you knit the socks and it makes like a cheetah print. So I just think that's very cute. Although, like, I do wonder for something that is supposed to be like self-stripe or self-patterning, like, do you have to follow a specific pattern that they suggest? Like, what happens if your foot is a little wider? Like, do you have to knit on like a 60 stitch sock, or does it have to be 64? I guess if anyone has experience with that, please let me know, but I would love to try those. I guess the next thing on here, it says under sock yarns, it says Knit, and I think it's because I tried their neon Knit Sock Yeah brand, or Sock Yeah line specifically, and I tried one of their neon pink colored yarns, and I felt like overall the feeling of working with that yarn was just really nice, so I have a really good memory of it. So I wanted to try like more of their sock yarns in different colors. I think that's why I put this on here. I do think I have to like kind of put myself on a sock yarn ban because I still have so much of it, but most of them are in solid colors. So once I am freed from the solid color sock yarns, or maybe I need to come up with some sort of scrappy project, then I will unleash myself onto these sock yarns. And there's actually one last thing on this list, which is Mondim. I think maybe it goes beyond sock yarns for Retrosaria Pomar yarns, because I want to try Mondim definitely. Mostly because I love their branding. But also I want to try some of their more like sweater, you know, garment weight. Because I just like the way that they talk about their yarn practices and things like that. So I just think it'll be nice to support a business that has a philosophy around that. And yeah, once again, I really like their branding. And with Mondim, I don't know if I would use it as a sock yarn, because Mondim is 100% wool. So it's not like, it doesn't have like a synthetic fiber in it, so you can't put it in the wash. And if you've been watching me for a while, you know that my socks make it into the dryer and the wash all the time. So I think I would just be devastated if my expensive Mondim socks made it into the wash. So I would probably try it, but knit like either a garment or something else with it. But I really do want to try it, just because like it's one of those yarns that was kind of, I don't know if hyped up is really the right word, but when I first started knitting, it was just one of those yarns that I had kept a mental note of wanting to try back in 2020 or whatever when I started. So I would just like to try it at some point. I just have to you know, make a purchase that justifies the shipping from Europe, which is always the problem with a lot of these yarn purchases. But maybe there is a local yarn store near me that has it. So if you live in New York City and you know of a store that sells Retrosaria yarns, please let me know. So down this list is now this plant-based fibers group. So under here I have fingering weight cotton. So I actually tried a lot of cotton yarns this summer that were fingering weight. Well, maybe not a lot. It was mostly just HiKoo CoBaSi, and that's not just cotton, right? It's cotton, bamboo, silk. But I feel like that kind of fits the bill still. But on here specifically, I've dropped saffron, which is interesting because I've already tried dropped saffron. I don't know why I put this on here. Maybe it was because before I used it, but I did try some cotton yarns that are fingering weight. The other one that I tried was Cascade Ultra Prima Light. Maybe that's sport weight too. Yeah, those are some of the cotton, like lighter weight yarns that I tried, and I had a good experience with both of them. And then I guess before that, to make a tank top last summer, I made the square neck camisole by Garner Slicked like last year, and I used King Cole cotton socks 4-ply. I don't know if they still make that anymore. I remember the color selection being kind of like ew, but I bought black. So I remember that being really nice. But I would say the HiKoo CoBaSi is more springy, so maybe that'll be better if you're trying to knit something that's supposed to be like negative ease or 0 ease. So I would keep that in mind. Well, this is not really supposed to be a review, but we're veering into review land anyways, aren't we? So that was like fingering weight cottons, but I also put down linens. So this year I did also try a linen yarn, which is Juniper Moon Farms. I think the yarn name is Zoe. I don't know if it's fingering weight. It's like fingering to sport weight. But I made a tank top with it, which was the Breezy Tank by Kiss Kiss Rhinestones. I think I just mentioned it in my last podcast episode. So I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's just that with stuff like that, I think you need to make garments that have a lot of positive ease. For me, I just didn't love how it sat on me in areas that are supposed to kind of like cinch in together. I guess that's what's nice about wool, is that it has that like springy quality, so that it just like keeps stuff more intact, but you don't get that with natural fibers. And I'm not really, I'm describing a core part of how plant fibers are, and that's like, you gotta work with it, not against it, is what I've learned from that experience. But I have on here, as far as what yarn I want to try, is the Rerum Natura Antigone. I had a chance to feel this in person actually, because I believe they sell it at Brooklyn General Store. So when I was there, I like play around with like a ball, and it's very, I don't know what the word is in English, but it's very like silky almost. It feels very cool to the touch, which I appreciated, but it is heavy, and it feels very dry. So I liked that about it. So I do still want to try it, but I don't know what I would knit with it, I don't know, like, I don't want to knit a tank top, so it probably would have to be like a t-shirt or like a very loose summer top of some kind. But I still want to try it, and I haven't been able to cross that one off my list. I do believe the price on that was quite high. I might be misremembering a different linen yarn, but that was another barrier for me for trying that. So I will save up for next summer and try and get that in my hands. So that was all the plant-based fibers category, and then we're going into kind of like wools and like animal fibers, I suppose. On here I have Double Sunday. So Double Sunday by Right. Double Sunday is Santa's yarn, and I know Sunday is the Petiteknit line, right? And I guess Double Sunday is too. But I think part of the reason why I wanted to try Double Sunday was because of the color selection. The light is really not cooperating with me today, so we'll just have to work with it. You know, it is what it is. But what were we talking about? Double Sunday. Depending on what kind of look you want in your project, I think it makes sense that you would gravitate towards like hand-dyed yarns versus like solid color yarns or things like that. But yeah, I just always wanted to give Santa's Yarn Double Sunday a try just because I'm getting kind of sick of holding yarns together. Like, I had my face for a while, but I just want to knit with like a single strand of something, you know? So I was looking at more like sweater appropriate yarns or whatever, and especially because if you get the Santa's Yarn pattern books, like of course they're going to recommend you use a Santa's Yarn yarn. So, you know, I think the color selection is really nice, so I would just like to try it. I heard that it's not soft, the Double Sunday. So I think I would like to kind of test what that means. I generally don't really have a super strong aversion to wools. I think I've only had like a couple wools that I felt like were super scratchy, and one of them was like a farm yarn that I got somewhere, but other than that I haven't really particularly felt like manufactured, like bigger brand wools were really that scratchy. Even Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight yarn, which I think I've heard a couple of people say is not very nice to them in terms of skin, next to skin feel, while Mohair I feel like a lot of it is prickly on me. So I'm sure like the feel of it won't really be a problem with Double Sunday, but yeah, I'm just curious about that. And I have woolly knits here. I think I meant like the cones. I have tried Holskarn Super Soft, but I typically don't really work with a lot of cone yarns because I am lazy, and I also like carrying my my knitting around, and I also move it like from place to place. So I feel like having a big cone of yarn is not really good for me because it'll force me to sit in one place, and I can't do that. So I like skein form yarn, or even better if the yarn already comes in a ball form. I think that's my favorite now. You learn to understand your habits the older you get, I guess. So that's that. And for the spun wool section, I have Cascade 220, which I've worked with Cascade 220 before, but I think I've worked only with the superwash kind, and I haven't worked with the like Cascade 220, the the DK weight yarn. I haven't worked with the non-superwash one, so I want to work with that one this winter for sure. I have a lot of yarn and stash still, so I'm going to have to figure out what project I want to knit with the Cascade 220 and all these like sweater weight yarns, but that's the plan. Along the ideas of like Cascade 220, I think I want to try knitting from more American wool brands, I guess, or American yarn brands. I think when I first started knitting, like a lot of the knitting inspirations and stuff, and even still, like a lot of that comes from like Scandinavian pattern designers or yarn companies, and that's all fine and dandy, and I still really like it. But I don't know, like I am a girl who does not do good planning. My planning skills are poor, so I always run out of yarn, and if I am ordering a bunch of yarn from Knitting for Olive, for example, and then I run out of the yarn, then I have to pay for shipping again, and I don't know, all of that seems like a hassle, and I feel like I should try and support the local yarn industry a little bit more, and also just try more yarns that are physically available to me in my local yarn stores. So that's kind of like what I am trying to do. I have this idea that something like Sandnes yarn, for example, is more trendy or maybe better yarn somehow because it is more unattainable for me. Like, it's like harder to get. But you know, for people who are in areas where Sandnes yarn is easy to get, maybe the perception is a little bit different. Maybe it's more like, oh, it's just like a big box store yarn that you can get at Michael's or something like that, like Patton's. But anyways, yeah, that's just like some things that I've thought of. And lastly, well, I guess I also have a category here for unspun yarns. Now, I will say I feel less compelled to try these unspun yarns now, mostly because I don't want to work with pencil roving and I don't want to work with unspun. I think that's what I think at this point I've come to terms with that yeah. I don't know, I just don't really love how it looks a lot of times. I know it's like supposed to be rustic. I know that it's supposed to be very warm, like physically, like the actual wearing of it is supposed to be very nice in terms of like warmth. But so unspuns on here, I have Manchalopes and I have Nutiden. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard through the internet grapevine that in terms of like the pencil roving, that like, I guess there's like 3 that you can get. It's like Istex, Plotolopi, and then you have Manchalopi, and you have Nutiden. But in terms of like softness, I heard it goes Plotolopi to Nutiden to Manchalopi, Manchalopi being the softest and Plotolopi being the least soft. And I have Plotolopi at home that I haven't used yet, so I gotta, you know, get cranking with that guy before I try any of these other unspuns, because I don't want to commit to that until I use up the ones that I have and actually have experience using with them. Unspun, I feel like pencil roving is kind of expensive. Like the Plotolopi I forget where I got it, but I got it on sale. I might have bought it directly from Eastex actually, and I got a good price on it. But I feel like Nutiden, I don't know if it's still the case, but like, don't they open orders very rarely, like monthly or something? And then is it still a bloodbath to get them? Because I remember when I first started getting into knitting, everybody was like, oh, Nutiden, and it was like kind of hard to get. But I don't know if that's the case anymore. But I don't want to fight people for yarn. You know what I mean? I just want to buy it. Like, I don't want to, like, you can have your yarn. Like, that's okay. I don't want to fight people for that. So I don't know. That's a little bit. And the last category is luxury yarns. So I don't really work with like super high-end yarns because I like my sweaters to be not $500 just in raw material. I'm sure it feels nice, but I just can't justify it in my brain when the more affordable yarns that I've tried are just as good. So this is in the category of luxury that I am not sure if I will ever like splurge on something this nice, but maybe if I win the lottery or something. But I think cashmere, like pure cashmere, would be nice. I've only worked with like mixed cashmere yarns or cashmere from Color Mart, which I know isn't like the same caliber of cashmere as these like ball form cashmere yarns. So we're talking about like Roman pure cashmere, Cardiff cashmere. Yeah, at some point I would like to try that. And then below here we have vicuña. Vicuña, no. Like, why? I don't think I would ever purchase that, and I don't even know what I would make with it. Vicuña, like, you can get certainly not a full garment because it just seems like a very expensive endeavor. Maybe someday if I become a big time YouTuber and then I gotta do it for a content, then maybe. But then I can't ever imagine myself knitting something with yarn that nice. if we're just talking about like hand feel, like honestly, like the baby yarns feel very soft, right? But like the acrylic baby yarns feel super soft, but like I guess I'm just like, I would like to try them just for the experience of how they feel while knitting them up, or how it feels to wear them. Not necessarily for like me wanting to make something with it, but I guess in terms of like having a nice garment, cashmere will do, you know? So that's the list. That's the list that past Jenny has compiled. Present Jenny knows that Jenny has tried some of these yarns that she would like to try already. I'm sure as I continue my knitting journey, I will always find yarns that I would like to have in my stash and try. So yeah, do any of these things resonate with you? Do you have a dream yarn that you've been dying to knit with? Or what's the nicest yarn that you've worked with? Or what's the worst yarn you've worked with? I can tell you what the worst yarn I've worked with is. I hope they're not watching, but the worst yarn I've ever worked with is Lion Brand Trubu or Kobu. Both of those. They were horrible. Don't tell them I said that. Oh, I'm being blinded. Okay, well, you know, thanks for sticking with me and listening to me yap about yarn. And progress-wise, we didn't get that far. But we've been here. We out here. And if you'd like to hear me yap more, subscribe. I also want to show you this. I made stitch markers using Shrinky Things. It's rat. I made a New York City themed ones. So we have rat, we have pizza, and we have pigeon. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! And you know, it is back to school season. The leaves are falling. The children are in school, although my neighbor's kids always seem to be at home for some reason. But we love them. We love them for that.